It's cleaning day for the coops, for the rabbits and the chickens. We're going to get this together. We're going to have a little chit chat. And I'm just going to be rambling on because, what else is there to do on these days? Getting this all together. The rabbits are new. Their newest addition here. They're still kind of skittish. So we're just going to make it do what it do. But I'll probably have to clean it with them in it. In this rabbit enclosure, we added cement pavers to the bottom to make it easier to clean. At first, we had just the hardwire cloth at the bottom, and all the weeds and everything grew through it. It became a total mess, and it was hard to clean, and I was over it. I wanted to keep it colony style as much as possible, even though it's a smaller enclosure. We are going to expand it later once we start actually breeding them. But in order to make it an easier clean out and easier and more comfort for the rabbits, also to keep their nails a little trim, we decided to go with the concrete pavers. This enclosure has 3 New Zealand does. We do have a New Zealand buck. He's in the house right now being quarantined. We're going to get his enclosure together soon. Now, I'm just going to use this bin. This is where I keep all the manure from the rabbits. I am going to add chicken manure to this one on this clean, but usually it's just all rabbit manure that I let the rainwater get into, and we just use that straight into the garden for watering and fertilizing right from the rabbit manure. I do have these scrapers, and I have a broken shovel. It's just like using a dustpan, So I'm going to go in and just scrape it into the shovel, and we're going to dump it into the manure bin that I keep for the garden. Most of the enclosures are not pretty practical for my entire family. I am the smallest of the family, so I do take a lot of the cleaning duties for both the rabbits and the chickens inside the actual coop of the chickens, but in this rabbit hutch because my husband definitely is not going to be able to crawl in there. My daughter and my son can actually get in there, but for me, I do most of the cleaning duties because I'm just the smallest, and it's just easier to get it done that way. Plus, I don't want to say it out loud, but I am pretty more efficient at the cleaning duties than everybody else. I guess that's just the mom in me. But I'm going to get in here, and we're going to just scrape it out real good. Make sure I get as much of the droppings as possible, and it'll be easier for me to spray out with the hose once I get all this up. I don't have hay in here. The only hay they get is in their feeder, so there's no extra hay or anything to clean out of the coop. It's just their droppings on the pavers. Now, one of the does is actually getting quite comfortable with me being around. I felt I had to keep watching my back. I was like, is she gonna jump me while I'm cleaning up this thing? I don't know. I'm gonna have to keep my eye on her. One thing people don't realize when starting adding animals to your homestead is how much they actually poop. I think you're like, oh, they're gonna have poop, of course, but it's not gonna be like a whole lot. Let me tell you, poop is probably the biggest thing that you'll have to deal with in your homestead. Yes, animals get sick. Yes, you might have to take care of them occasionally, but just making sure that their enclosures are clean is probably going to be your biggest job. You feed them in the morning, sometimes morning, evening, and you go on about your business. Make sure they have water, make sure their shelter is secure and all that. But giving them a clean environment is probably your biggest task, and making sure that they stay healthy, because just like humans, a lot of feces will make rabbits, chickens, whatever animal you have sick. So you want to make sure you are combating that by constantly making sure the area is clean. Also making sure that their enclosures have some exposure to sunlight will also help with keeping down some of the nasties that you can get, because the sun is going to help cure that off, dry it out, kill some of the bacteria and stuff that can form. So you want to make sure they do have a little bit of access to sun, but also keeping them safe from all the elements like rain and things like that. But getting in here, making sure everything is clean is probably the most important job that you'll have when you're keeping animals. You want to inspect them on a regular basis to make sure they don't have any like parasites or bugs or anything like that. Make sure they're healthy, no injuries, but also make sure that you're giving them a clean space to live in, because don't you want to live in something clean? I know you do. So why should your animals, even though they're going to be used for what, meat or their manure or whatever, you want to make sure that they have a nice healthy life. So make sure you are cleaning everything appropriately. After getting most of the manure out, we're going to go ahead and spray this down with the jet sprayer on the hose. I do have a pressure washer attachment, but the jet actually does a good job. So I'm going to clean out the crevices as I can, and I'm going to get as much off the concrete slabs as I can get. The rabbits would not move out my way. Okay, they kept hiding. They were scared of the hose. I was trying to get them to move. They were not having it. So, they might get a little wet, and they're going to go hide off and dry off. You don't want to keep them wet. So if they get wet, make sure they have a place where they can go and dry off. So this is pretty much done. I'm going to come back and put down some barn lime, and we're going to also put down some diatomaceous earth just to make sure that it's cleaned thoroughly. Then we're going to move on to the chicken coop. But here is my manure bin. I throw all my manure in there and let the rainwater make it into tea. Now, the chickens, on the other hand, disgusting. This is cleaned like weekly, and they are just terrible. It's 10 of them in this playhouse, and you would think it was a million. They don't like their nesting boxes, so the eggs are they usually move the nesting boxes out the way and lay their eggs just where the nesting boxes are supposed to be. It's annoying, but hey, if they like it, I love it. Some eggs end up cleaner than most. We're going to try some new nesting boxes and new nesting pads and see if maybe they'll start laying in them. But as of right now, they hate it. So I hate it, because now I have poop on eggs that I have to clean more thoroughly than if they were in the nesting boxes. Now, when I'm out here cleaning the coop, I make sure I wear gloves, a mask, and glasses. I don't think I wore a mask today, though. I'm not sure why, or if I could find it or whatever, but I usually wear a mask, especially inside the coop, because that ammonia smell can definitely be harmful to you and your lungs and all that, breathing all that in. So you want to make sure you are really prepared to clean. You want to keep yourself safe as well as your chickens. So I usually wear gloves, something over my hair, because there's spider webs at the top of their coop and they usually end up in my hair. But I always wear gloves, my boots, glasses, and a mask. I do go in first and scoop out the major poop clumps, manure that I can find on the top of the surface. In some areas where it may have gotten wet, like if the rain ended up inside the coop somehow, I get that part out. We are going to lay a little bit of fresh pine pellets, not much, as long as we get the top layer off, or the most amount of manure out. I'm going to go ahead and get that out, and we're going to dump that in the rabbit manure bin. Usually I take it straight to the compost bin, but today I am exhausted already from cleaning the rabbit enclosure, so I'm just going to go ahead and put that in the same manure bin that I use for the rabbits. Now, you see how I fit in this playhouse. Imagine if my husband or somebody had to get in here. The last time he went to collect eggs, he almost got stuck. So he does not go in here to clean. He'll clean the outside for me if I need him to. The actual run enclosure, but actually going in and out this tiny door, he is not having it. So I'm actually not going to do a full-on clean in here today. I'm going to take out most of the manure, well, almost all the manure I can, and then I'm going to spray it down with the hose, and then get as much of that off as possible. I am going to go ahead and then scoop out the wet parts that I made from the hose, because I don't want it to be too moist when I put the new pellets in. I want to give them time to expand and let the chickens do that. Depending on what type of coop you have, like, it's never going to look pristine. You just want to make sure you're getting the major things off of there. You can wipe it down. I do use a lot of vinegar in here when it's time to clean after I've sprayed most of it down. But today I'm just using the jet sprayer on my hose to get the major issues taken care of. If you clean your coop regularly, you should know what it would look like, and how much dust you're going to collect from just the chickens being in there, and how much dirt and grime. But the major thing is to make sure you're getting the manure out. I do like to get the spider webs out, even though spiders don't really bother the chickens and they'll probably eat them anyway, but I do like to get most of that out and make sure there's no bugs, mites, lice, or anything like that. So we're going to give it a good spray down, and it's not going to be perfect, but it's going to be cleaner than what it was. I can just say, if you told me about 20 years ago that I would be in a playhouse chicken coop that I helped build, raising chickens and cleaning up chicken manure, I would have told you, you are absolutely insane. That is not going to happen. But here I am, mid-40s, living the best life I can, raising rabbits, chickens, soon to be quail, soon to be ducks, the next year expanding even more. I never thought this would be a thing for me, okay? Never thought. How many of you have now taken a path into homesteading, gardening, self-sufficiency, and you were like, nah, dog, that wouldn't have been me a couple years ago. But now, like, you're all for it. The peace that it brings and all that. Even the dirty jobs, okay? It just lets you know that you are taking care of your family and nothing can stop you. And it is definitely peaceful out here. The chickens are entertaining. If you have good rabbits, they're friendly. You can play with them a little bit. I treat mine as pets a little bit. Well, at least my breeders. They're pets, okay? They're just pets that are going to feed me later. So I take a good approach of trying to make sure everybody's happy and healthy, living their best life, and knowing that I am providing for my family with a chicken coop playhouse and a wire enclosure. Now, using the sprayer, I did get a little of a wet mess in there, so I'm just going to go ahead and cover that up, turn over some of the shavings that are already broken up in there. This is not a great shot. Oh my gosh. But I'm going to break that up. And when I clean, after I get like everything together, I like to go in and sprinkle in diatomaceous earth and barn lime. I usually mix them together just to make it an easier application. Now that it's all rinsed out and clean, the chickens won't even give me a chance to finish. They want to go see what's going on. Now I'm going to go ahead and spray the outside. You see them running because they're scared of this hose. Make sure that there's no spider webs. Get all that extra dust off from them flying around and getting the pine shavings pine dust, I would call it, the pine pellets everywhere. Oh my gosh, I have to brace that coop on the side. But I use this jet sprayer to spray everything down. The automatic door is waterproof. And to keep that in working order, because that right there is definitely a lifesaver. I do have one chicken, Diana Ross. She does not like to sleep in the coop. She likes to sleep on top of the coop at night. I used to worry about her safety, but she's been doing it for a year now, and I just don't force her to even try to go in the coop. She likes to sleep on top, so there's always a lot of poop and dirt and dust up there. So I have to make sure I get the top done really, really well for her. We're going to spray all the sides of the playhouse except for the back, because I don't feel like squeezing back there. There is a gap, probably about a foot or two behind the playhouse that they like to hide in. and I am definitely not going back there to spray this coop down. Whatever's back there is going to stay back there. Because we have a lot of predator pressure, I can't let them out of the run for me to clean the coop, so they're always just in the way. Look at them. They're so beautiful, though. I am in love with having chickens now. I want more, but I'm just not in the mood to expand the coop and run situation right now. But maybe soon we'll have some more. Now, like I said, I have Diana Ross that likes to sleep on top of the coop, and so she likes to poop on one side of the coop. So there's always a mountain of poop up there that I have to scrape off before I can rinse it down. And that, as well as the other manure, is going right into the manure bin because it's good for the garden and the compost. So I like to keep that. But it's one chicken up there. I don't know how she poops so much compared to the other chickens, but I'm going to get that off of there, and then we're going to spray that part down as well. I have to say, I'm so happy I have a new hose, and it's 100 foot, because I can just bring it into the coop and do everything that I need to do and don't have to worry about it. It doesn't kink or anything like that, and it keeps a nice steady pressure because I need that jet stream to be working, because it can get nasty in here. Okay, so I'm just going to make sure I finish spraying off everything and make sure it's nice and clean so we can move on. Now that the inside is pretty much cleaned out, the outside of the coop itself is cleaned out. Now it's time to get into this run. In this area, we have a ton of mud and it's flooding, so I always use the horse pellets, the pine horse pellets, and they end up getting real impacted over time. I don't think I've switched out horse pellets since we got this coop, and it's been over a year. So it's like a new surface. In some areas you can scrape up and see the hardwire cloth underneath, and in some areas it's about 5 or 6 inches thick. Like it's a whole new surface. So I like to get in there, break it up a little bit, make sure it's not compacted all over, just to give them something to fluff up and play in, and to rotate I guess the droppings so they all get some sunlight, all get rotated in. It's almost like a deep litter type situation, if you want to call it that. But I like to break it up a little bit in certain areas before I lay down the new pellets, so everything gets a good refresh. But as you can see, they break things like chicken waters. They broke that. Had to switch to the nipples because the cups, they tore those right off the bucket. They said, we don't like these. So I had to switch to the nipple waterers so they can't tear them off. But you see how thick that is? That is over a year of pine pellets. They break down really easily in the rain, and it also keeps my run extremely dry. Of course, it's going to get wet in certain areas that are not covered by the tarp, but then it dries super easily. It absorbs the moisture, and I don't have to worry about it being really muddy in their coop, well, in their run. After I turn it over, I like to level it out a little bit. I used to have a little steel rake. I broke it, that I used to level it out. So now I just use my foot. They don't care. As long as it's almost even, where there's no real big dips and dents where they might like hurt themselves, I just make sure the wire is covered and that it's slightly even. They're going to dig around and tear it up anyway and make it look how they want it to look. But I just do my best at leveling. But as you can see, again, big chunks. It gets solid like ground. So I like to just break it up a little bit and give them a new space. As you can see, that's about 4 to 5 inches of added ground, you can call it, because that's not where the ground starts. That's where the wire is, where we first built the coop. Probably next spring, I'm going to pull almost all of this out by the wheelbarrow full and lay down all new pine pellets. But until then, we're just going to keep turning it over, reusing it, and then adding another layer. These are my egg layers, so I want to make sure that they're as happy and cozy as possible and that they're having the best life, so I get as many eggs as possible. I don't want anyone to feel like they're in a cruel environment and they stop laying in protest. I want it all to be nice, clean, cozy, and then I also want it to smell good because I have to go in there, right? I don't want to go in there and it's stinking. That's terrible. Nobody wants that. So I want to make sure it's nice and clean. Now, after I've done all that, I'm going to go ahead, like I said before, and I'm going to mix some barn lime with some diatomaceous earth. I do about a 50-50 mix. It's just easier for me to do it as a mix instead of doing it all separately. And I'm just going to go ahead and sprinkle it all around their run. And they'll actually move it all around for me. And then I'm going to sprinkle it inside the coop. Now, when you are using the barn lime and diatomaceous earth, you actually do want to wear a mask because it can get into those lungs and we don't need those kind of problems. But I'm going to sprinkle it all around to make sure we're keeping down any bugs that make their way into the coop. I like to especially do their roosting bars on the inside, making sure their floor is covered in both of the products and any major areas that they are. And if they get in the way, they'll get dusted too. And so inside we go. We're going to go ahead and put this down. Now, I'm going to do this twice. I'm going to put some inside the coop on their roosting bars, on any ledges on the inside, on the floor. And then when I go back in, I'm going to put the pine pellets down. And I'm also going to put some more on top. I use a lot of it when I do a weekly kind of deep clean situation, just to make sure we're keeping down mites and everything. I do not want to have any problems with these chickens. Do you know how much antibiotics, medicine, and all these things cost for chickens? It's pricey. So the healthier I can keep them as preventative, the better. Because things like blue coat and dewormers and all that gets real expensive. Okay? And I don't want to have those problems. I don't want to have fly strike. I don't want to have any of that. I want to make sure I'm taking care of it before it even happens. Because who has all this extra money to pay for all these extra medications? Not I. That's not what I'm in this for. I'm not in this to waste money. I'm in it to save money. Well, that's an argument people like to have. I think I'm saving money because my chicken feed is only about $13 a bag a month. So, take with that what you will. And on a coop refresh, maybe I'll lay pine pellets once a month, possibly. Sometimes sooner, if it depends on if we have a lot of rain or if I had to do a really extensive cleaning and take a lot of the pine shavings out. But I'm going to put a little bit inside the coop, and then I'm just going to throw the rest all around the outside of the coop. Now, when you have chickens and I throw treats into their pine nuggets so they can start scratching and moving them around for me. So that leaves less work for myself. Now that the inside is done, we can move on to the outside, and I will be almost done with my cleaning day. It doesn't take that long, but it's something that you really don't want to have to do. So, you need to do it, and you're just like, let me get this done. But making sure that they have a good environment is the top of my list. So now I'm just going to sprinkle out the pine pellets all over. I use the horse pine pellets from Tractor Supply. And I'm going to let the chickens do the rest. I'm just going to put them in the major parts. Like right here where I'm standing is a dip, and it doesn't have as much pine as the rest of the area. So I'm going to make sure there's a lot in that area there to cover in case of the rain, so there's not a pool of water there. I do spread it out a little bit, but not too much. Not too much. The chickens will take care of that. So I'm just going to spread it out just a little bit so I know the areas I kind of want it to sit in. And then I'm going to let them do their thing and make their home as comfortable as they want it. And as you can see, as soon as you clean the coop, they're going to go in there and mess it up. But hey, it's their house. That's the huevo hut. And they can go in there and do whatever they want. So this is what it looks like with the new pellets. And as you can see, I don't really spread them around. Okay, I let them do that. And I'm going to go back in with that DE lime mixture and make sure that this area is covered. So when they do spread the pellets around, they'll be spreading some of that into the soil as well. And I'm very liberal. Lime is like $4.99 a bag. It's not going to break the bank. So DE, on the other hand, a little bit more pricey, but lime is not. So go ahead and sprinkle that thing. Make it white. Make sure it's fresh in there. It smells good, and you keep the insects down. And I'm also going to sprinkle some in this rabbit hutch as well. I do just a little bit in here. The rabbits are just going to walk in it. If they touch it or roll around in it, that'll help them as well. So I'm just going to sprinkle some in here too, because we want everything nice and fresh for our livestock. Okay, so now their area is clean, the chicken coop is clean, and I'm pretty much almost done for the day. But in order to get those pine pellets where I want them, or where the chickens want them, I'm going to throw in some sunflower seeds. These are sunflower seeds right from my garden that dried out. So I'm going to sprinkle those in, so as they're looking and digging for them, they can start moving those pine pellets. They want treats, they got to work for them. So I'm going to make them work. And by doing that, they have some enrichment, some fun, and it takes a little pressure off of you doing some extra work. Now that I'm done in here, I'm going to move to the outside space. Now I am adding quail to the homestead, and I'm also going to add my buck's enclosure outside. And for the enclosure, I'm going to put the buck right here and the quail right here. The enclosures are just going to be dog cages that I'm going to wrap in hardware cloth. Now I do need to get this area cleaned, and my weed whacker is out of what's it called? Thread? Whatever it's called. I can't remember right now, but it's out. So I'm going to use my hand grass trimmer just to clear a little space, so I know exactly where my quail are going to go and how they're going to fit in this area, as well as my buck's cage. Now his enclosure, after we got him, is going to be too small. I'm still going to put it over there, but I'm probably going to have to get him a bigger one later. But we're going to put him in that one for now. But his enclosure is going to be a little bit too small, because when we got him, he's a big thing. He's huge. So I'm going to have to figure that out. But I love my little hand grass trimmer. It's just like using some clippers from a barber. Just get all this out the way. I'm going to rake it up, move it out the way, and put a nice spot for my quail. I want my quail close to the chickens because they're going to eat around the same food, be taken care of at the same time. So it's just easier to have everybody in the same spot. And I also got to get this wild grapevine off this coop because it's taking over. It is providing shade, but it's also getting a little heavy up there. So we're just going to trim that down a little bit because I don't want any damage to no coop that I got to replace. I'm trying to keep it as simple as possible. Okay, the less money I have to spend, the better. So I like to keep up on things so I don't have to fix them later. And I like using my grass trimmer because I don't want to poke holes in my hardware cloth with the weed whacker, because I have done that. So I want to make sure I'm not poking any holes that I have to fix later or re-hardwire the run area. So I'm just going to use my grass trimmer so I can get right up on it, see where the blades are going, and don't have to worry about any damage. All right, let's break this area up and get it a little cleaned out so we can go ahead and put the quail enclosure where it's gonna go. For the quail, I'm going to use an extra large dog cage. I'm going to put a hardwire layer to make it sure that it is under 2 feet. So they have something soft to hit up against if they jump. And then I'm going to hardwire cloth the whole entire outside and the bottom to make sure that they are safe from predators, because we have a lot of those in this area. But this is where they will go, in this enclosure here. And then I can stack another one on top of it as we start to expand in the quail husbandry. The enclosure for our buck is not this big. It's actually a smaller dog cage. And we are going to, like I said, switch that out. But for right now, that's where he's going to have to go, into the smaller one. But I would like to get him one this size. I've seen some on Marketplace, so I'm probably going to go ahead and snag him up one that is this size. But this one right here for the quail should be big enough for at least 12 quail to start. And then I can add another cage on top when we decide to hatch some out or expand into another type of quail. So this dog cage is going to be perfect for that. And we're going to put a tarp on it. Make sure to keep the weather out of it, all types of stuff. Add them a little sandbox and a windbreak in here. But the dog cage was the most cost effective and efficient option to start with our quail. So that's where they'll be, right there next to the chicken coop. And we'll use the weed whacker on the rest of that because it's not really close to the coop. And the rabbit is going to go on, the buck is going to go right next to where the does are once he is out of quarantine. So I'm just going to trim this up with my grass trimmer to make sure that there is no weeds growing in his area. He's going to have a hardware cloth floor and everything else, but his enclosure is going to go right there. Eventually, we're going to add a second and third smaller run like we have here. For our grow outs and possibly to keep our bucks in. But this is what we have right now. We gonna start our journey however we start our journey, and we'll upgrade and move stuff around later. But the goal is to get started and save money. Here's a picture of our buck. Isn't he so cute? But if you like chit-chatting with me and hanging out, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. See you on the next one.